Awesome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Website Redesign. Um, yeah, we actually have two new folks on the call today, so let's do quick introductions. Even though we just technically did them offline, but it's good to do it online as well. So I'm Adam, ComCom chairperson and co-chair of the Website Redesign Initiative based in San Francisco. I'm do design systems over at LinkedIn full time. So, Mohit, how about you?
Sure. So my name is Mohit and I'm from India. I'm a JavaScript developer. In past, I have been a GSOC student and I've also mentored some of the GSOC students and GCI students from past 2 years.
For context, Mohit, what are those? What do those abbreviations stand for?
So GSOC stands for the Google Summer of Code and GCI is Google Coding.
Awesome.
Awesome. Is it Zan?
It's Jean, like
Jean.
French name. Yes.
Perfect.
And I'm a front-end developer. I'm based in Slovenia, and I work full-time for a company called 3FS. We are an agency, and we do front-end work for Ericsson and Outfit 7, if you heard.
Awesome. And Manil.
Hey folks, I'm Manil. I co-chair Website Redesign with Adam. I am a member on the ComCom of Node.js, and I am a developer advocate at InVision. Super stoked to have two new people here. Good to meet you, Jean and Mohit. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. I hope your first session will be exciting and you find a space that you can dive into. If not, like, we're super happy to help guide you towards something that you feel like you can contribute meaningfully to.
Sure,
yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Very cool. So we're going to take a little different approach to this meeting today since we're missing a good number of the regulars, and we have two new folk. I figured we can go through. Manila and I gave a talk over at the Community Corner at the Vancouver conference that just wrapped up, and it would be good to have that recorded somewhere. So we're gonna go through that in the beginning. I'll share the slides up here and we'll blow through them. It'll give good context to anybody watching the YouTube video and both of you here on the call. And then we'll dive into just reviewing the few agenda items that we have when we have time at the end. So let me see if I can get my screen sharing here. Sure, we'll do the whole thing. Share that. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Sweet. We will make sure we're on. Make sure we're on Do Not Disturb here. Y'all don't see my text messages pop up. Awesome. So, website redesign. At the conference, we presented a little bit of a history of website redesign. So, like I already said, I'm Adam Miller, ComCom chairperson, design systems tech lead at LinkedIn, and Manil, also a ComCom member. He's a dev advocate at InVision. And we're going to go over a little bit about the team that's working on website redesign, the history of the project, where we're at right now, and where we kind of envision where the future is going to go. So we work over on the Node.js GitHub repo for website redesign. And our goal is to try and turn the website into something that actually shows off Node's values. We have about 23 active contributors and counting. We're growing all the time, although we have 5 to 7 core contributors that really are driving a whole lot of the content, but it's a big community effort. We're trying to push it forward all together. And we really want to make sure that the website represents what Node.js values. So this is very much inspired by Node.js Interactive, also back in Vancouver from last year, where we ran an exercise with all the contributors to try and identify the core values of Node.js. And the main major takeaways here were Node is stable, inclusive, welcoming, performant, and fun. But if you go and look at the current website, is it welcoming? The two giant black bars at the top and bottom really constrain the environment. We're using crazy convoluted language that's not particularly approachable. That is not particularly welcoming to any new engineers. Is it inclusive on top of all the non-welcoming language and design aspects? That green on dark gray is actually doesn't pass colorblind guidelines for other members. Fun fact. I don't know about you, but the kind of like, it looks like it was thrown together by an engineer hacking in their basement, doesn't feel particularly stable or performant, and doesn't show off Node.js as a production ready system. And is it fun? I don't know. I love corporate grays. I think it's the most fun way to present any information, but I have a hunch that the rest of the world does not agree. So we wanted to start from the drawing board and really peel back the layers here and figure out what the core, how we can best communicate what Node.js is. So there's a lot of places we could take inspiration from. We went and identified 10 different projects, ranging from particularly in the front end component framework space and the more programming languagey space that we fit into. And we came away with a whole bunch of inspiration. We actually published a blog post called Redesigning Node.js Part 1. It's kind of a competitive case study. It lives over on Medium. Recommend that everybody go and read it. It's in the Node.js collection. But in there, we ran through a lot of takeaways for major site IA and best practices from across the industry, and came away with a number of takeaways for Node.js. And it was really here that it kicked off. We became an official initiative of the community committee. And we decided we're going to approach this like we're building a product, because that's what a website is. So we're going through 4 major product phases. Phase 1 was tackling information architecture and user experience. So kind of how all the pieces fit together. Stage 2 is actually designing the thing and making sure it actually conveys Node.js's values. Step 3 is identifying content, the best content that can make people who arrive at the website move fast and get to their destination as quickly as possible for whatever their intent is for being there. And stage 4 is to actually build the thing and actually execute on all this planning that we've been doing and release it to the world. So stage 1, when we started tackling it, we, missing a slide here, weird. Started tackling it, we put together, we in issue number 4, we started digging apart the current website structure and started talking about how to best structure it after the fact. It resulted in a pretty solid InVision prototype that we threw together, received feedback on, iterated on a little bit. It lives over on InVision. You can go and take a look at it still to this day. And then after receiving all this feedback, we and figuring out like how the type of information we're hoping to present and the large sections that we wanted to present it in, general types of layouts we were going for, we were able to move on to the design phase. So we started tackling some of the design stuff, specifically, first and foremost, what colors are we using? This resulted in yet another Medium blog post about color design, which was a whole lot of fun, but this took a lot of time. And go figure, not a lot of professional designers hang out on GitHub and are engaged with the Node.js project. So I was a little daunted about how we were going to complete this in a reasonable amount of time. But luckily, this is about the time when folks over at RunKit, owned by Stripe, started to take attention to the project. So Francisco and Joey often join these meetings, but Stripe has very graciously donated a full-time designer to the project to help out and figure out how to best represent the site IA that we're currently working through. So the biggest thing that we want to avoid right now is design by committee, because unlike with code, if you throw, the more people you throw at design, typically the worse it ends up coming out. So instead, we're doing a design by proposal process where the designer, Joey, is working very closely with myself and a couple other folks in the Node.js community to bring together a full proposal of what the site could finally look like, which we'll then bring to this group and eventually start growing the circle of people who are giving feedback on what could be a full, like, if we could launch this today, proposal. The approach you take with luxury redesigns. And that should be coming down the pipeline fairly soon for redesign work. So with design work, and on top of that, RunKit is, the devs at RunKit are doing a lot of the work to get live demos on the site itself. So inside of our API documentation, you'll be able to see runnable code right alongside the examples. And this will also work in getting started docs as well. It gets automatically pulled out from Markdown. It's a cool little bit of tech. And RunKit is slowly becoming kind of the de facto standard for now on documentation sites. It's used on NPM, it's used on Express, and it's used on a whole slew of other sites to show runnable code demos. So this will bring a whole layer of interactivity to the site as well. So it's amazing what they're bringing to the project. So with design largely underway from somebody who's with very capable hands, we've been most recently focusing on content. And we want to make sure that we're making valuable content that actually enables people coming to the site to move quickly and get to where they're going. We started out with voice and tone guidelines over on issue number 13. It's still in the works, so it's a living document, and there's always room for improvement. And then we ran an awesome ideation session over at JSConf Berlin, where we got a group of people in a room and started working through user persona creation and then content ideation for all those different user personas that we identified. And a whole bunch of content came out of there for possible content people would want to come to the site to consume. And a lot of that was synthesized over in issue number 60, where there is a huge list of possible content that we need. Some of it more general, some of it more specialized, and all of it very valuable at the end of the day. There's still work that needs to be done to synthesize this into major sections on the site. If you look at the Envision prototype, we have a kind of a concept of learning paths and grouping content by type of developer. So there's the basics that you need to know just to get started in Node.js. Then there's, I'm a front-end developer who wants to use Node. What do I need to know about front-end build systems? What value does this have for me? I'm an SRE who's looking to prop up a Node.js stack at my company. What tools do I need to know? How do I keep something running, et cetera, et cetera. So there's these logical groupings that we need to start thinking about on the site, but there's also a whole lot of content, specialized content area that we need. So that lives, there's a RFC process in place right now for adding documentation. We don't quite know exactly where these documentation files will live exactly yet, although we had a great session at the Collab Summit over in Vancouver talking about documentation ingestion and how we're going to structure it. But for now, in lieu of a final home for documentation, we're keeping it in the website redesign repo. The documentation folder in there contains the README about how to RFC or how to PR a documentation RFC into the folder. And there's a slide missing here because this happened just in the past 3 days. But there is an amazing content creator named Flavio over in Italy who recently published I believe it was called the Definitive Node.js Handbook, which is an amazing amount of getting started content that he has very kindly donated back to the project and currently has open in PR number 105 on website redesign. It is, Manil, was it 4,000 lines worth of documentation written for getting started guides?
Just over 5,000. It's
just over 5. Yep. It's going to be a lot of fun to review. It's going to be a lot of fun to pull in. It's going to be even more fun to have on the site. It's amazing that he's contributed that back. So there's a lot of getting started guides PR'd in already. We just need to do a quick review of it. And we have a volunteer who helps run a code school over in Portland. She's going to sick a whole bunch of new developers who are new to the industry to kind of validate that it's the type of content that they need to get started and provide advice for improvement. But that's currently in the works as well. We have a lot moving forward on that. Stage 4 is going to be to build the darn thing. But at the moment, it's kind of a big question mark. I can fill in some blanks about what we talked about at the Vancouver summit that just wrapped up a week and a half ago. But right now we are very much focused on the content and rolling out the design at the moment. Although we should just begin to start talking about the tech right now. Yeah, so that's the current state of things for website redesign, where we've been, where we've come from. I can send out links to all these as well for both of you on the call in the chat. Yeah, that's all I got.
Woohoo! That was
Nice.
a great presentation.
Do you maybe have any mock-ups to show already from the designer?
Nothing that's good for sharing quite yet. I'm hoping by next meeting we will have. I mean, Manil can attest. I've been saying this for forever. He really wants to keep things close to his chest. Let's stop sharing. There we go. But the timeline is before end of year. We're gonna have mocks for this group to look at and review, which I'm quite excited for. He's working on some new mascot ideations, more colors, and a brand new illustration style that's going to be very much used for the homepage. But there's a lot of stuff we can do before that. There's the chat. Okay, where's the chat? There it is. There's a lot of stuff we can do before that to start working on documentation ingestion and content curation, which will be kind of independent of there's the RunKit demo, and here's the, sorry, I'm posting links in the chat. There's all the links that were in the presentation that we can do even without a final mock. We'll know the general structure of the site, and styles can be layered on after the fact. There's a bunch of build stuff we're going to need to tackle first.
So for the remaining part of it, I'm wondering, Adam, if it'd be good to help Mohit and Jean find something active in the PRs that maybe they can review, or something in the issues that they can jump on, maybe collaboratively with other people. I find that having something specific that we can guide people through actually helps, because in the beginning when people join our project, and I've been running some workshops in open source over the past little while, I found that people want to join open source, and this may not be true for you, but it may be that you want to join open source, but you're not yet sure where.
Yeah, do you two have an inclination for where you'd like to contribute back? Like, what are you hoping to get out of joining this?
So from my side, like I have been open source contributor for different organizations like MIFOS. I've been contributing to MIFOS from last 2 years. So yeah, I like doing open source contribution, like meeting people around and getting it back to the community. Yeah.
I haven't yet, so this would be, I mean, I contributed to the Keycloak, but I haven't really done any hands-on, like contributed consistently in a project. So that would be my first like hands-on open source project I would contribute to.
Right on.
And
well, it seems like, Mohit, you may have some familiarity if you've been contributing to another open source project for a while. You may have some familiarity with processes that people use typically, because as you know, the same processes we have over here are meant to make sure that people working in different time zones and people who don't do this as a full-time job are able to jump in whenever they can and review the stuff. So I'm thinking that would be different from what Jean might want to get into. With Jean, I'm thinking we might start off with, I'd make myself available to help walk you through the processes, because say you want to open a PR, or say you want to contribute to jump on an issue, you might not yet know that we have, for example, a 72-hour waiting process for if someone makes a PR, we leave that PR open for at least 72 hours. So that other people have the chance to jump in and say something, even if they're not in the same time zone and they might take a while to get back to it. So stuff like that. I'm happy to make myself available to answer questions about that. And at the same time, like I do also want to point you both towards something that you feel you would find meaningful putting time into. So Adam, anything you in mind? I'm going to think about it for a bit.
So the big need that we have right now is documentation content. So there's keeping in mind that we just got a giant dump from Flavio in 105. I also just posted a link to issue number 60, where we have that list of topics that we were interested in touching on the site. And despite the sheer amount of content that Flavio just PR'd in, it's there's still plenty left here to write about. So you know, for instance, there's stuff about just contributing back to Node.js, so like filing bugs for Node.js. How do you do that? API testing best practices. How do you you know, what are some major things to consider when unit testing Node.js? What are some major things to consider when logging in a Node.js application? What are, you know, just a bunch of I'm literally just scrolling down the list here and reading items. So until we kind of reach a place from the code side where we have the foundation set for the main architecture of how the website's going to be set, a lot of the room to contribute back will be in documentation. So that would be amazingly appreciated if you consider yourself not even an expert, but somebody who can just lay the foundation for one of these documentation pages. It would be a good place to start.
Yep.
It is in issue 60 number 1, not 60 number 1, issue number 61. I'm seeing that there is some work happening around user feedback also. That seems like that could use some added perspective about what questions might be relevant. Y'all, Jean and Mohit, you might find it useful to jump in there and click on the form that one of the new contributors has put together. And so basically when you go through, so I don't want to start like completely from scratch, and if y'all already know this, so feel free to stop me at any point. But for us, since a lot of our discussions happen in issues, and if you haven't seen that issue before, it helps to read right from the top and go through the entire context of like what's being discussed. And you don't have to feel any reservation about jumping in on an issue that maybe you weren't a part of and it has been being talked about for say a month or so. You can jump in at any point and add your perspective to it. It is quite helpful. So right now in issue number 61, they're asking about whether or not certain choices in a form would make sense to do. So we're looking for if there might be any extra perspective as to what to prioritize in that form. So you could jump in there also and add your perspective.
Sure, Manil. I'm just checking out the issue, and I'll definitely go through this today, and then I'll definitely try to leave my feedback there.
Awesome. And let me give a brief. I realized I glossed over the text slide a little too fast in there. Let me give a brief brain dump about what was discussed during the last Vancouver summit as well. Literally wrapped up a week and a half ago. It was our first time breaching the topic of kind of tech architecture and tech requirements. And the major points we agreed on in the breakout session were documentation needs to live alongside the content that it's documenting. Hopefully that's fairly non-controversial. So like getting started docs should probably live in the main Node.js/Node repo. Meanwhile, community pages should probably go live in the ComCom repo so that they can keep an active list. So we're going to have this model of needing to pull in content from many different sources and stitch it all together in a sensible way. And so the direction we're hoping to take for the documentation site is actually much like what we've cobbled together with my team at LinkedIn, conveniently, where you can you have a standard way of kind of packaging documentation. The primary language is just in Markdown, and at build time, the website depends directly just on the Git repos themselves. And at build time, it will reach into each repository, find the documentation, stitch it together, and spit out a mostly static site that operates as expected. So that's about as far as we got. We very intentionally did not talk about component frameworks. We didn't talk about build system choices. We didn't talk about, because we're hoping to nail down technical requirements and then come back with recommendations in an async way for how it's actually going to be executed. So at the same time, to fulfill those major requirements, if you two have any ideas on how that can be best done, feel free to go. If you have a strong passion for front-end build systems, like I do, feel free to open an issue with suggestions and ideas. It might be a good time to breach that conversation and see where it heads.
Yeah, Adam, I'd like to dive into that front-end build system and the component framework selecting. Like, I'd definitely like to help out deciding the component framework that we are we want to choose for the node.
Yeah, we also toyed around with the idea of not even using a component framework. Like, if this thing can build to a static site, that is honestly ideal. Like, the less moving parts, the better for something this large. So keep that in mind too as you knock around personal ideas about how this thing can be structured. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add more here is about the Gatsby, because I have used Gatsby from like past 2 or 3 months. That's a static site generator, right? So we can consider that also.
Yeah, there's a number of open source options that we could probably pursue as well. And if they can fulfill that requirement of we need some way of depending on a Git coordinate in a package JSON and pulling in sucking in documentation and building that into the site. Like, if they can, as long as they can fulfill that requirement, I'd say they're a candidate for use here. So doing probably this should be an issue open on the repo, but doing an audit of open source options for that, so we maybe don't have to hand roll our own documentation stitcher. That would be convenient too. So yeah, if one of you actually would like to open an issue and kick that off in the repo, I would greatly appreciate it. I know I've been buried the last week catching up on work since the conference. So if one of you wants to open that up, that'd be amazing.
Sure. I'll try to take this up.
Great, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And
so
links in the chat. Y'all can DM with procedure.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, definitely a static site, since I've seen that Node.js has 4 million visits per month. So
I think we lost you, Jean.
Yes, I think yes.
Well, yeah, largely static sites also work very well for past versioning. You literally just host the file somewhere and it.
Considering we should also have a speed on the website, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. We have about 20 minutes left. I'd like to just, for the sake of completeness, run through the agenda items and get status updates, or just so it stays on our radar for everything. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Agenda's in issue number 104. I think we can blow through it pretty quick. Yeah, and in fact, this one should not be on the agenda. So issue number 21.7.23 in Node.js/Node, creating a branch of docs using RunKit. Just status update on that. Francisco has worked out, it seems like, all the technical issues with it. He's just waiting on a release of ESLint plugin Markdown. He got his pull request in. After that, the build errors should pass and he can get this PR landed, which is exciting. So this is the first validation of the live demo use case, and the changes he's making to the API docs right now will, with a slight reskin, be almost exactly what we'll be using on the new site, which is exciting. Another thing we're trying to do is not make the entire project do any large changes in order to get the new site out. So the biggest thing we need to preserve there is the current API docs need to stay the same, but look nice and function a bit better. So Francisco's been doing work to make that happen. I put PR number 105 on the agenda for visibility's sake. This is Flavio's Add Node Handbook content PR. It is a huge beast of a PR. We're going to get a whole bunch of people in there to help review it. Granted, this content is stuff that's already been reviewed over and over again since it was published elsewhere, but he made changes to like he mentions in his first comment, he made some changes to remove internal links and swap out some banners that didn't make sense and remove some opinionated comments that are not appropriate for the website. But another pass at reviewing would be awesome. So more eyes we can get on that, the better.
I want to jump in on that one. So I see Flavio has followed the CFP process, and that as part of that process, like if y'all jump into pull request 105, you can see that each section of the document is divided into its own directory. So each one is kind of self-contained. I am wondering so for one thing, part of what's slowing us down, that will slow us down here, is the fact that it's a giant 5,000 line PR. And typically we try to split these kind of things up. So I'm wondering if, for the sake of the students and anyone else who might be reviewing, we split this up into the individual sections. So ask that Flavio, if he can, split this up into a PR for each each directory that he's pulling in. And that way we can assign those specifically to individual people, and they can all feel ownership about their review process and everything. Plus we can PR them all in like individually as they finish, not just all in one go.
So something I like about it coming in as a bulk PR is we can all look at his Node-Dash handbook branch and see it on disk as it will show up. Because part of what the review process will be about too is ordering of docs and how the pieces flow together, and it's a single body of work, not necessarily standalone. So we can maybe keep everything living together, but still, because they're conveniently numbered, we can divvy out sections to people as they make sense, and especially Jordan and her army of developers. We can work with her to split up content. I agree, it's a beast of a PR and probably won't get reviewed unless there's some amount of order to it. But I also don't know if having 53 PRs opened up would reduce the barrier to entry here. Yeah, I worry about splitting it up into discrete sections when they're meant to play together.
I see. That makes sense. Maybe then I'll start a conversation or comment about having a process around it. Maybe when we start assigning people to it, that we link them directly to the relevant section. Because scrolling through this,
a lot.
Yeah. So we can give people individual markdown files to review. Link directly. Okay.
Yeah, here's the, I'm gonna link directly to the, it's 55 individual directories. Here's it on Flavio's GitHub. Yeah. So we can assign directory ranges to people. Would be a good way to do it. And yeah, that'll probably help out. So we can have a call for reviewers, get a list of names, and then divvy it up by number of people we have.
Yeah, that's cool. That's extensive. There's 40A and 40B too, so we're
okay, 56 it is then. Funny. I like that. Awesome. Issue number 66, walkthrough in ComCom and TSC meeting. Is there still, do you think there's still value in doing a TSC meeting, Manil? I think ComCom's pretty up to date on what we're doing, but I don't know if after the conference, TSC's feels in the
like
loop.
they're up to date. That's true. Maybe we could postpone this until say like December or January, when it's like halfway through till the next collab summit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll have more to report on in January.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call. I'm looking for TSC meetings in January. That would work. January 9th, there's a 1 p.m. Western US TSC meeting.
Oh, are you in the calendar or in an issue?
I'm in the calendar. I'm just looking.
Okay.
Although if we do an early one, it'll cover more time zones. So let's try and get on the agenda for January 23rd. Yeah, that's an 8 a.m. TSC meeting.
Okay, postponing to January 23rd. I'm putting a comment in just so we know.
Beautiful. Awesome. Let's talk about.
Don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you, Mohit. This is just the normal meeting.
Yeah, it's process. Issue number 99, Docs Hackathons. I think we should punt on chatting about this maybe until after we get through Flavio's bulk content. And then we talked about issue number 60 a little earlier in this meeting. Basically, go PR content in. Manil, is there active work that needs to be done on 60 for organizing still, or should we remove the agenda label?
In 60, which one?
60 list of getting started content titles.
Oh, you mean like remove the issue?
It pops up on our agenda every time.
Oh yeah, we can remove that part from the issue. I think at this point it's we use it as reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can remove it.
Cool. We'll spin out separate issues for each bit of subject matter. Like Flavio's PR is going to be on the agenda for a while, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to loop in. I haven't sent the email yet because I'm buried. But I have the contact info for the whole sysops panel from the end of the conference. I'm hoping to get them to contribute back the ops/tooling developer. Content matter there. Awesome. That's the entire agenda. Good job. We blew through it in 6 minutes. Go team. Awesome. Any other matters for the floor before we call it a meeting? Oh, Jean asked, how do I contact you if I have any questions regarding contributions? Yeah, Node Slackers, Manila and I are both active on. Our Twitter DMs are also always open. So feel free to find us on there.
I'm slightly more responsive to Twitter DMs. And for some reason, Node Slackers hasn't, it seems like Mohit said that there's no Slack invite. Maybe it's a bit slower, or have you gotten it now?
Nope, not yet.
It might take like 10 minutes to a half hour to come in. I don't know. I just have like a whatever that open source Slack invite server is running. I'm not sure what the delay on that is. If it doesn't end up coming through, you can reach out to the admins of it, or we can ping Tracy. I think she's an admin as well, and see if we can't figure out what's going on. But yeah, just ping us on Twitter if it doesn't come through by end of day, and we'll.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
Does Twitter work for y'all, or do you? Yeah, is just checking. We kind of assume that it works for most people because we tend to be on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Twitter's an okay. Yeah, take the silence as a yes. Oh, wait. Oh, John, I'm sorry. You were You rejoined and you've been just sitting there with your hand raised this whole time. I'm sorry.
Oh, I realized how that came. I was like, there's no
There we
window,
go.
but where's the comment coming from?
That's funny.
Yeah, I got disconnected when I wanted to say something and just poof, I was gone. Magic.
I hate how Zoom makes you manually promote people to panelists. I wish there was a setting that you could tweak that.
Yeah.
I wish there was also an option to ping you when people join that part of the meeting, like because it makes like a doorbell noise when you join, say, this part of the meeting. If there's no like waiting area, but if there is a waiting area, you don't get pinged. And there should be an option for meetings that are small enough that we
Yeah, I don't see when attendees chime in.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
well. Okay, y'all. That's all I have for the meeting. Any other questions, comments, criticisms, compliments?
No.
Not
good.
yet.
Well, then we will sign off of YouTube here and call it a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.